G'day YouTube, warbles on a lot here with something of a mad scientist video, even though I haven't been bothered to go and collect the jeweler's loop to put up to my eyeglasses to make it official. Although, for the sake of formalities, I suppose we'd better go through the ritual. Hey, what? Welcome to the Husqvarna electric chainsaw intelligence test. Embodied within the 540i XP, which is a particular gadget that I purchased about 2.5 months ago, when I also purchased an electric brush cutter and an electric leaf blower and 3 batteries, 2 big ones and 1 little one. And the chainsaw during that time has logged 5 hours and 50 minuets of operation. Most of that time on a BLI 200X battery, which is about a 250 watt hour battery, and the software allows you to use about 200 watt hours of that before flashing a illuminated red exclamation mark to tell you to stop, and also 2 BLI 300s, and they are 349 or 339 watt hour batteries, and their software stops you and gives you the illuminated little red finger when you've used 90% of the battery's rated capacity. The chainsaw has only done 5 hours 50 minutes. This battery has done 11 hours and 49 minutes, because guess who does a lot of brush cutting? Okay, so that's the setup. I'm going to share with you a bit of a joke. When you buy your brand spanking new, bright, shiny electric chainsaw, what you buy is what they call a skin, in inverted commas, and the skin does not include the battery. A BLI 300 with an 8% mates rates discount before all the GST calculations went in, it cost me $465. Across the fleet of 2-stroke powered implements, I'm used to running about 150 hours a year, and the machines use about a litre per hour. Maybe less on the brush cutter, but not on the brush cutter, on the leaf blower, but I only really use the leaf blower for firefighting these days, so it's a minor part of the equation. Brush cutter and chainsaw, they're the biggies. I'm used to 12 or 15 hours per year on the chainsaw, and 30 or 40 hours a year on the brush cutter. So because these are much more pleasant to use, that 150 hours might come up to maybe 200 hours a year, 200 litres a year. A litre of unleaded petrol is about $2, and a litre of 2-stroke fuel requires 38 cents worth of oil being added to it. So $2.38 per litre for 200 hours a year in order to use brand new petrol powered equipment to do what these things are going to do. And I bought 2 BLI 300s and 1 BLI 200. So effectively, when I bought the chainsaw, the brush cutter, the leaf blower, I also purchased 3 batteries amounting to 4 years worth of fuel burn if I had have bought the petrol powered equivalent, because the petrol powered brush cutter, leaf blower, chainsaw, the same capability, capacity, able to do the same amount of work in the same amount of time and weighing roughly about the same when you're using it. Actually, the electric weighs less. They cost the same. I bought the biggest brush cutter you can buy without needing a backpack to carry the battery. It's got a plug-in battery, you know, and the battery from the brush cutter fits the chainsaw and it fits the leaf blower too. So I can use all three batteries, and all I have to do is log the batteries and log the machines in order to make sure that, you know, that battery is actually performing the way it should be performing. If one of them suddenly goes awry, then I might not be able to repair it or get it repaired, but I might be able to prevent myself from being out there in the forest buggerising around with my chainsaw and suddenly having my lithium battery catch fire. If you don't measure it, you can't manage it, kind of sort of thing. So anyway, here's the joke. When I bought this chainsaw, this very meticulously designed plastic cover with a fairly fine mesh metal gauze was loose in the bag. And when I looked in this, the manual, to install the air intake cover, if you cut materials that cause much dust and small particles in the air, a air intake cover is recommended for use. 1. Hold the air intake cover against the fan housing. Make sure to put the hole in the air intake cover on the right side of the hole in the fan housing. 2. Carefully push the air intake cover against the fan housing until you hear the click. Push the air intake cover into the holes. Install the screw. Well, mine didn't come with a screw, so I've actually got it on back order, because when I saw all the work somebody had gone into doing that, and when I thought, well, yeah, chainsawing is usually pretty dusty. I mean, I did 16 minutes this morning and I brushed down everything else before starting the movie so it would all look shite and briny, but I neglected to brush the bottom of it. So let's lift this off and see what you get inside the housing after 5 hours and 50 minutes of chainsawing in 2 months. Da, 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 da. The great reveal. Part 1, what you get is the really sexy silver and grey with an orange edging bordering the Husqvarna logo. And underneath that, there's the dust that managed to go in and get stuck on the wide mesh grill, which protects, or at least it does its best so to do, it protects the motor, the cooling fan, which is directly behind that plastic grill, providing cooling air to the electric motor, which has got 2/3 of a horsepower worth of electricity going into it when you squeeze the trigger full in full power mode. After going through the motor going that way, the air comes out through that set of slots, blows up into the bottom of the battery, where it duly emerges out the top of the battery after having gone through the gaps between all the individual cells in the battery of cells. And then when the air has first cooled the motor and then cooled the battery and presumably the speed controller and circuitry on the way through, then it finally emerges coming out of here hot enough that you can smell the warm insulation. So wherein that lies the intelligence test, do I hear you ask? Look at that dust there. If I brush it off, and mind you, I'm holding it upside down so the dust doesn't get gravity fed to the inside of the motor. If that all kind of makes sense. Okay, so herein that lies the intelligence test. The look of the thing versus what actually works. When you receive this, that's how it comes. It comes so you can read the beautiful silver and bluey grey, blue grey versus grey grey with the orange outlining. It says Husqvarna 540i XP. And if you're into the look of the thing, the shininess of the bling, yeah. Well, you're not going to put a fucking dull grey cover on that's going to cover up that thing, are you? It's not going to look very cool, is it? That's not going to look any, flamboyance. That's going to be dull, boring, functional. At least so I reasoned. They could well have printed 2 of those labels and put one of them onto there, but they did not, because they didn't want this to look appealing and quote sexy. Because this thing, it's going to stop lots and lots and lots of sawdust. Which is not going to have any problem at all going in through those holes. None. So my reasoning is nobody who knows enough to manufacture and distribute globally an electric chainsaw is going to supply one of them unless they think it's actually a bloody good idea. The marketing jism department, they might want to put the label on there, perhaps in the hope that people who are interested in form over function are going to want to be able to see the pretty label, and they won't want that getting in the way of their eyesight, so they're going to leave that off, and they won't care about how much dust and abrasive bits of dirt and how much sawdust is going to go in through their engine, through their motor, and how much of a long-term maintenance issue that may be, and what failures, the gradual slow build-up of sawdust in an oily atmosphere, because the train is going to throw off oil, and the oil in the air is going to get sucked in there and mixed with the dirt. Yeah. Like I said, this is the Husqvarna electric chainsaw intelligence test. Are you a member of the arty farty glitterati, bright shiny landfill party? Or do you want to protect your saw and have the bloody thing last as long as possible? That is the question. Okay, right, so to give you a bit of an idea of what I'm talking about, this morning with the BLI 200 XP battery, I spent about 6 minutes cleaning up various twisted branches for various hypothetical projects that I might have in mind here in the tree droppings part of the property. And I have put in quite an enormous amount of work turning stuff that looks like this with higgledy-piggledy busted dead branches all over the ground, while salvaging the quaintly artistical sort of bits, which might perhaps be a little bit funny to maybe make something out of later, into looking like this, where all the readily ignitable bushfire fuel burden has been picked up and carted off to the dump. So it's easier to brush cut around and reduce the grass fire potential. And I've only sort of kept the bits that might become firewood, although that probably won't. I don't care. It's still a pretty good borderline boundary for any approaching grass fire coming from out there. This, yeah, that might become firewood, and basically I've been hanging on to the firewood, haven't I, Felicity? Hey? Yes. And it only cost me $14 for up to 480 kilograms to take a trailer load to the dump and stick council with the responsibility for dealing with it if it catches on fire. And Felicity tells me that that's a pretty good bargain. So, On with the demonstration of what a savage intelligence test Husqvarna includes with their electric chainsaws. I still have a fair bit to do. And of course this is the stuff that's furthest from where I can get a trailer up to. But yeah, I'd say I've done more than 3/4 of the stick picking and fuel burden shifting. When I paid something like $1,800 on top of the previous $800 worth of tree surgery in order to stick myself with the problem of living surrounded by a donut full of firewood, lying on the ground waiting for a grass fire to set it alight. And it's a funny thing, but you can't ring up your local rural fire service and ask them to come and look after your fuel burden. If you own the fuel and it catches a light, congratulations, dickhead, you own the fire. So, that was a bit of a segue. On the other hand, we have different fingers. What we see here is the elliptic cackle section watering of the tank, which my daughter bought, and she thought it might somehow be plugged into the firefighting system. And well, to be honest, no, the firefighting system is centered around where the water is down there and where the pumps are down there. The firefighting system can, on the other hand, fill this. And we had to cut this tree down in order to make sure that it didn't fall on the tent. So what we have is some really super hard, super dense hardwood eucalyptus stringy bark in a trunk with its buttress roots stuck out there. No bloody storm had ever knocked it down. And this morning I spent 10 minutes cutting these grooves with the front end of the electric chainsaw. And the idea is I'm then going to cut across those grooves, and then once I can see down to where the blade is, I'm going to attempt to come in from the side and cut out a whole lot of little almost cuboidal bits of stringy bark. I might put another one in the centre there, perhaps, maybe, I don't know, see how we go. And I've got a BLI 300 in there, so I've got 300 watt hours, which is about 1/3 of a horsepower for an hour, and we're probably going to use it in about 15 or 20 minutes. So I'll just move that out of the way, set the camera up. Okay, just change the angle of the dangle to make account of the light. I could leave it zoomed in like that, and maybe I will for the very first couple of cuts, but basically I think I should then pull back out to about here. But anyway, my theory is if I make 3 parallel cuts, you're going to see what I'm on about. And I note I have not resharpened the saw after it's 15 minutes this morning because I didn't hit any rocks. As you see, we've got 4 greens. It helps if you plug it in. And we have 4 greens. And we are on economy, which I think limits the otherwise 540 watt motor to about 350 watts. It certainly lasts longer on the economy setting. So what did we say we were going to do? 3 of these. The idea is to be able to see in there, so we better get a stick and clean the bloody grooves out. if I was any sort of a video maker, I would have done this beforehand, but I didn't think of it. Okay, 13 minutes past. So we start out here. See what I mean? How much dust is there after one pass? After two passes. Okay, so that was 2 minutes. 2 minutes operation. Look at the intelligence test. How much dust and shit and crap would I have put through my chainsaw in 2 minutes if I had failed to fit that? Yeah? Think about it. The only thing that I know which is more devious and more subtle than somebody building a beautiful chainsaw and then giving you an optional air cleaner which is going to cover up the bright shiny sticker which says, oh, I just spent $1,000 on my new electric chainsaw, to every one of your neighbours who looks at you. When you're unloading your firewood or putting your chainsaw into your car to go out and get your firewood, yeah, they set it up so that their bright shiny sticker, which is going to appeal to the dickheads who care about the look of the thing, is going to be underneath the air cleaner, which you need to have there in order to make your motor last a long time. It sort of reminds me of a video posted by an American called Project Farm channel. He likes to do comparative tests, and he does very comprehensive tests of things like engine oils. Not only measuring their lubricity and the size of the abrasion scar when they're put through a friction test, but how long a identical generator with an identical electrical load will run on the particular fuel using different engine oils. He's really obsessive. And he did a test with chainsaw bar lubrication oils. And what he discovered was that the most effective, the superior chainsaw bar lube was the stuff called Max King, which sold for about 1/4 the price of the Husqvarna bar oil, 1/4 the price of the Still bar oil. And he found that Husqvarna and Still chainsaw bar lube was the least effective of anything that was on the market. He found that, according to his results and his figures, I'm merely reporting this, I'm not asserting it, he found that they sold, well, I find they sell beautiful equipment, but really shit ass bar oil. So it's going to go through a lot of bars and a lot of chains. And there's an intelligence test built into the air cleaner on the chainsaw, so that unless you think it through, you're going to go for the look of the thing. You're going to want it all bright and shiny. And before you know what you're on about, you're going to have the whole thing caked full of bar lube glued sawdust, all inside your electric motor. It might be a brushless motor, but I bet it doesn't like being glued up with bloody sawdust and bar lube that's been getting hot and baked in successive layers. Anyway, that's the intelligence test, which is built into the Husqvarna electric chainsaws. Great chainsaw, but beware the marketing jism, because it's fucking in there, mate. It really is. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. I'm going to get back on with this and see how much I can do. Ciao. Bonus extra features. That's 5.5 minutes of extra cutting, and we've only used 1 bar of battery. Okay, so 7 minutes to put all of those, not quite parallel, but yeah, running opposed to the others. And they all go down about the same depth. Okay, so we've got the grooves cleaned out. Hopefully that means we're going to be able to see what we're doing now. Okay, let's hope we don't fuck this up. down to 2 bars. One bar. Still 1 bar. And I'm still not flashing a red alarming exclamation mark. So I'm going to call that enough. Actually, because it's worked so hard, Let's put some air through the system with no load. Try and cool the thing down. Let's face it, I always used to do it with my petrol powered chainsaw. Why not do it with the electric one too? So, there you go. And now you know. Husqvarna makes a bloody lovely chainsaw, electric. Does a hell of a lot of work. Yeah, what was that? 25. I make that 21 minutes of cutting at absolutely flat stick, as hard as you can go, although I was on economy. So, yeah, 20 minutes at roughly half a horsepower, and you've got half a horsepower in the battery. Makes sense. And if anybody tells you that your electric chainsaw is not going to be up to doing the job because, you know, petrol powered is king, you know, I don't think they've got a big enough electric chainsaw. They've got a toy from the department store. Go and buy a real one from the chainsaw shop. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.